What's going on, everybody? Connor coming back at you with another video on FinViz. So I've done videos about FinViz before, kind of like how you can determine maybe what sector to swing trade in, but I never really did a kind of a full overview on it. Now, the only reason I want to do this is because FinViz is a super good tool to use when it comes to stock trading. Some people can't afford to buy the super expensive scanners. Some people can't afford to buy, maybe Benzinga to find out news. But at the end of the day, FinViz is a completely awesome tool to use for trading because it just has so much information in there. So I think we're really just going to run you through a brief description, kind of just giving you the rundown on FinViz, because when you first open it, you got these charts, you have the market depth, you have a bunch of these tickers and numbers and percentages, and then if you were to go into the scanner, I mean, there's just so many options. You can go fundamental, you can go technical, you could do all of them, and now there's hundreds of like different things you can look at. So you're probably thinking to yourself, holy shit, right? So really I just kind of want to give you a brief run through because it can be very intimidating, especially as a beginner trader just trying to get started. So where do you really go from there? So I want to break this down. So up in the top, right, you have kind of the three major indexes. So you have the NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Dow. Really, these three charts in the top, along with this big box here with all this color going on, this and these three charts are really there so that when you open FinViz, you kind of are getting a feel for the direction of the overall market as a whole. So not individual stocks or securities, but an actual direction of the overall market, right? So by looking here and you're looking at the Dow, looking at the NASDAQ, and looking at the S&P, you can tell whether or not everything is green on the day or if we're in a strong bull market or the direction's going to the upside, because you can kind of look and see if the chart's going up, that means the overall market's performing pretty well. Another thing a lot of people don't pay attention to here is this little blue bar, right? People just probably walk right past this or don't even think to look at it. This little blue bar actually represents the relative volume in any one of these given marketplaces. Now, you'd have to know a little bit about relative volume for this to maybe make some sense to you, but long story short, it's just another indicator that shows you the overall strength. Technically, when we're trading stocks, we want to have any given stock have a relative volume of at least 2 and hopefully much, much greater than 2, because that tells us that it is trading at 2 times its regular volume. Or if it's a relative volume of 20, that means it's trading 20 times its regular volume. So these three charts, along with the market depth, give you an understanding of A, how strong the market is, and B, where is most of the strength at? Are we in the technology sector where most of the money is being traded, or where most of the stocks and the companies are green? Or, for example, consumer goods were red, in this recent time period, this day. So that tells us that right now the technology sector is booming while the consumer goods section is kind of crapping its pants. So what we could say to ourselves is it might be better to focus our attention towards the technology sector, whether or not we're looking for day trading options, swing trading options, or what have you. But I actually believe the technology sector is booming because I think a lot of them are releasing its earnings right now. But I could be wrong. I can't remember. But with that being said, by looking at market depth, you can kind of understand, where the momentum is shifting in the marketplace just from a brief look through. All right, moving over to here, this is pretty much simple. This is just pretty much giving you a top gainers and a top losers list, right? So you can look here and you'll have a list of your top gainers, right? So just a handful of your list of top gainers, some top losers. Then if you go below that, it'll run into new highs, new lows, overboughts, oversolds, unusual volume, volatile. So really, this is a pretty cool area. This really just gives you a brief, quick rundown of top gainers. So if you're someone that likes to look at top gainers, then you'll know you can just hop on FinViz, and these first couple tickers and stocks you see will be your top gainers. If you're a top losers person, just come over here, and these first few top losers will be what you want to focus your time on. It will also give you New lows for any stocks trading, whatever day it is that the session's in. After it completes itself, you will have your new lows or new highs, overboughts, oversolds, most volatile, most active, and so on. Okay. And just so you know, FINVIZ does not update by the second like real-time trading softwares. It is delayed, so really the information you get is a little bit delayed, and it's best, it's about a 1 day. It's delayed by about 1 day. Now there's some other things down here like tickers and what, they're on trendline support, trendline resistance, and so on. So this is kind of a cool thing to look at because it tells you like what stocks are trading in a channel up, channel down, double tops, double bottoms, and so on. So if you'd like to trade patterns or if you'd like to trade channels, this kind of tells you what stocks are trading within those channels. And then you can, of course, pop on to hopefully one of your trading softwares and then go from there and see what stocks, or see if these stocks are in fact trading in that channel and whether or not they may be close to a support or a resistance to help you determine whether you want to go long or go short and so on. It's just understanding what's being provided to you makes FINVIZ such a great tool. Now you could come over here to your news. Okay, so let's say we hop over here to news. Yeah, it's great because it provides news, but in my honest opinion, I don't like the news section because there's so much news that pops up and it really doesn't go based by ticker symbol, like it's saying New York Post, Trump. So it's really just a news channel that comes up, with what time the news released. So if you're one of those people that really likes to read news, I would consider this more of for fundamentally trading because it seems more of like a FINVIZ provides, it's a little bit of both, it's economic and solely focused towards any specific company. So it becomes a little bit harder to determine, what really is the good news in here that's going to drive any one given stock price up. So as far as news goes, I wouldn't solely use it based on determining, for quick breakouts on stocks or if stocks are going to explode based on a news release because it'll make it very challenging and you'll probably end up wasting more time than you will trading by trying to use this. But if you want to stay up on the overall market and just have a better knowledge of really what's going on, in the economic standpoint and within the market, good place to check this out. Moving further by going into the screener. Now this is the stock scanner. I know it can look very, complicated and very scary, which it is if you don't know what you're looking for. Now we're not going to go into showing you really how to scan for specific stocks and all that. I'll give you a quick rundown on it. But, all in all, this is an amazing tool, right? Like for example, we can go into financial. And you could type in any ticker you really want. So, let me go back. So if you wanted to, you could type in any ticker and we'll do AMD because everybody knows this stock, right? So if you, by doing this, this will just pretty much print you out a chart with what pattern it is in and how it's trading so you can help determine where supports or resistances might be, especially if you can't draw them yet yourself or you don't know how to. And then it'll bring up all the data on the actual stock itself. And to be honest, AMD, I like what they do, what they're really doing as far as a company, but just one quick glance and you can tell that fundamentally they're not holding up as a good company. I mean, there's some good things and there are some bad things, but all in all, to me, it looks like fundamentally wise, AMD is a not such a strong company right now. And how do we kind of determine that? Well, you look at the fundamentals of a company. So over the past year, their EPS ratio has been pretty good. EPS over the next year looks pretty good. But their EPS for the past 5 years is down. Sales for the past 5 years is down. EPS for the quarter is down 120. They're below their 50 SMA by 9%. Debt equity is -3. Limited debt equity, -3. I mean, the list goes on. Return on assets, return on equity, return on ROI, return on investment. Gross margin's good, but that still doesn't outweigh a lot of these other things, along with their EPS over the year. But so beyond what I just said, some of you guys may not know what the hell I just said, but by taking a quick glance, you can tell which companies are really fundamentally sound and which aren't. And when you look at what's fundamentally good and play with that in conjunction to technical analysis, typically the technical analysis in your trading will work out better when you have a little bit more of an understanding of the fundamental side. If you go strictly pure based off technicals, which does work, it's primarily how I trade, but having a little bit of knowledge on the fundamentals will definitely help your technical analysis because you'll know you're either trading a bad company, an okay company, a good company, or a great company. So when you mix your good or great fundamental analysis with a good or great technical analysis, your follow through is probably going to be much better. Or if the stock starts going the wrong way and you're trading a stock based on mostly technicals and then you check and it has really bad fundamentals, you could be saying, you know what, maybe it's the fundamentals that are driving the price down and not necessarily technical analysis part, right? So all in all, it's a super useful tool. And like I stated before, if you're someone who likes to trade patterns, you could do something like this, right? You could go into the all, and you could simply just check for pattern, right? If you're a type of person that likes to maybe trade wedges, like you could do a wedge up, right? You could trade a wedge up, and automatically it'll bring you up a list, and this has 1,000, right? And look at this. So it gives you a chart in which it's trading into a wedge up channel. And you could do Google, and you could look around and see what wedge up channels do. But as the stock price gets, tighter and tighter in the wedge, it essentially what it's going to do is either it's going to break to the upside or it's going to break to the downside. So you can play it both ways, right? So now you have this huge list of stocks trading in wedge up patterns, right? And now you could go through, and that's the thing, is if you really like to trade wedge up patterns, this would be a good, useful tool for you. Now, slim it down a bit. Like, you don't want 1,000 stocks to look through. You never do. You wouldn't do you any good. So why don't you, put it into a price point in which you like. Maybe you're like, I only like stocks. I like to play stocks under $50. So now you do that, and instead of having 1,000, we have 700. And then let's say you're like, oh, well, Connor said we want to trade stocks that have a relative volume higher than 2, which you do. You really do want to have a stocks that trade higher than relative volume of 2. So let's say the relative volume is over 3. Now we're only down to 25 stocks. Now that's good. Now we have 25 stocks to look through. Now you can just click one and be like, okay, let's look at this one. Oh, this one's trading in a wedge. It already appears that it trades on low volume. But look at that. I mean, all in all, fundamentally, it looks pretty good. I mean, over SMA by 5%, over 20 SMA by 20%, over the 200 by 20%. That's good. I mean, everything's green here, but there's just not enough to go off of, really, to be honest. There really isn't enough to go off of here, but that doesn't mean you still can't trade it, right? So then you can keep going down the list. How will we look at this one right here? That one looks ugly. That one looks... let's just try this one, all right? So you could look at this. You could come in here, and then you could see, this is not bad. Actually, this is kind of a fundamentally sound company. It does look like they're down for like the past couple years or something like that, but all in all, not too bad. So the idea here is if you're the type of person that likes to trade wedge up patterns, you can slim it down, and then you can just go through here and find good stocks and trade them if you want to trade them, right? So all in all, very easy. You could go through groups. Groups here is basically the performance 1 day, weekly, monthly, 3 months, 6 month, 1 year, year-to-date performance on the sectors. So this can help you determine which sectors are strong and maybe where you want to allocate some of your money, especially if you're coming down to portfolio diversity. Imagine if you diversified your portfolios here in industrial goods, financial, technological, healthcare, you'd be booming over the past year. Your portfolio would have grown exponentially because they're all up 17, 25, 27, 28% for the past year. To be in services, that would have really sucked. You'd be down 88%. Wow. So anyways, that's kind of the brief rundown on FINVIZ, and I hope you guys like that video. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comment section below.